Hello YouTube. We're going to work on a basic probability problem. So let's just jump right into it. So if a coin is flipped, if you get a tails, you roll six-sided dice. Otherwise, the coin is flipped again. And if you get a tails, you roll a six-sided die. But if you get a heads, you just flip it again until you get a tails, pretty much. So again, if that didn't really make sense, think about it. So you flip a coin. If you get tails, then you roll this dice. If you get heads, flip it again. So pretty much you have to consider or remember that if you get a tails, you roll the dice. That's the main important part here. So write out the sample space. Sample space is outcome, and it's determined, and it is known as omega in this case. So let's write out omega. Omega is the set of all these possible outcomes. So I could get a tails and then roll a 1. I could get a tails, then roll a 2, a tails, then roll a 3, tails roll a 4, tails roll a 5, tails get a 6, but I could also roll a heads and a heads, and heads then tails. So we got to consider those outcomes. Alright, so that's pretty much sample space, and that's just saying what are the possible outcomes. Notice here that there are 8 total outcomes. Okay. So, let A be the event that the dice will show a 1, 2, or 3. What is the probability of A? So, if you get a 1, 2, or 3, that means you flip a coin, and you get tails, then you get a 1. Then you flip a coin, you get tails, you get a 2, and you flip a coin, you get tails, you get a 3. Then you roll the dice, or you roll the dice and you get those numbers. So, those were these 3 options out of the total of 8. So that's what we're going to write. So you have 3 out of 8. That's your answer. Another way to think about it is the number of ways over the number of outcomes. That's just what we did. And that's the probability of A. Okay. So let's go to this next one. So given that the coin is tails, what's the probability of rolling a 5? Okay, well, remember, if you roll a tails already, so you already rolled a tails, you know you didn't get heads, so you're at tails. What are the options? Well, you actually have 6 options. 4, 5, 6, there you go. And you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So it's pretty much just asking what's the probability of rolling a 5 on a 6-sided dice, because you already rolled the tails, or you flipped and got a tails, so it doesn't really matter, so the odds are 1 in 6. Again, that's just saying what are the odds of getting a 5 on a 6-sided dice. Well, there's only 1 5 on a 6-sided dice, 6 options, 1 outcome. There you go. Okay, now if you're given heads, what's the probability of rolling a 2? So you flip a coin, you get heads. What's the probability if you roll a 2 on a 6-sided die? Yeah. Well, if you flipped a heads, you don't get to roll the dice. So it doesn't happen. That just doesn't work. There is the probability of this event happening, let's call it the probability of D, is 0. You're already given the heads, you can't roll the dice, so that can't happen. So now the dice shows a 4. What's the probability of getting a tails? Well, again, let's look at this thing. You roll heads or tails, and then if you miss, you go heads or tails, and then pretty much once you roll a tails, then you have 6 options, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on rolling the dice. But if you're already here, what's the probability that you rolled a tails, or you flipped the tails? Well, in order to roll the dice, you have to have flipped the coin and received a tails. So since you have to do it in order to roll the dice, otherwise you can't, this is pretty much the probability of, let's call this E, is 1. It's guaranteed. Another way of thinking about this is the probability of omega, which is also 1. But pretty much 1 just signifies you guarantee that this will happen. And that's the example. So, there you go.